By working together, people can do things that would be difficult or impossible for any individual. This is a report on the Golab project at the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center. We're studying how people organize themselves for group work and are exploring ways to make teamwork more effective.
Well, PARC became well known for its invention of the personal computer, but most work that people do is actually done by groups of people, cooperating, collaborating, pulling their ideas together. Teamwork is actually a kind of phenomenon that's important to most organizations. It's responsible for most of the things people can do together. So at PARC we have a collection of projects which are trying to study collaboration of different kinds, how people can work together over time, how people can work together over distance, or even how people working at the same time in the course of a meeting can be more effective with the use of new kinds of technology.
To understand the use of new meeting technologies, we must first understand something of current practice. Members of the Golab group, along with other researchers at PARC, are observing and analyzing groups at work in traditional meeting settings.
Everybody has to work with other people, and everybody's experienced frustration and difficulties working with other people. However, if we look at real people in real meeting situations, we discover that the surprise is not that people have difficulties working with one another, but rather that they succeed so much of the time.
PARC scientists are exploring the ways small groups engaged in complex tasks regulate their behavior and use spatial relationships on traditional display media.
Although there's no a priori reason to expect it, people will use whatever space is available to them. They mark things down in different places, and the places have a relationship to one another. Sometimes that relationship is discussed explicitly, and sometimes it's just implicit in the arrangement of the objects. Here we see a clip of people doing engineering design work using a whiteboard. We can trace the progress of their work over the 2-hour meeting, both in their activity, rising up from their chairs to stand at the board, sitting on the table, and in the development of the marks on the board. Other meetings show other patterns. Only by looking closely can we see the particular function of the board in any given interaction. But the importance of placement as a resource is indicated by the fact that people remember it. Long after items are erased, we see people point at the place where they were written and say, "that idea," and other people know what they were talking about. It's a common myth that people talk first one and then the other. This myth captures the reality that there is a sequential order in speech. But of course, people often interrupt one another while all present are still able to make sense out of what's going on. Similarly, we see groups negotiating extremely complex behavior, writing, talking, moving, drawing, at the same time or nearly the same time, without any discourtesy or confusion. Group work is complicated not just at the level of subject matter or conscious decision, but in its underlying organization. Working with other people is a skill as fundamental as walking. It's complex, it's necessary, and we notice it only when we're having some sort of difficulty. When we're working in a group, the interactions are very, very precisely timed in relationship to each other and in relationship to whatever other drawing, writing activities are going on at the same time.
People have incredibly finely developed skills at regulating interaction in subtle ways, ways that we don't remember necessarily clearly after the fact, ways we don't think about. For solving complex design problems, for working on in complex situations, people need to be able to draw on their resources, not just as experts, but also as people.
To be useful and powerful, any new technology intended to support group work must let the group actually do the work. As part of the Golab project, we're building a new computer-based communication medium. This is the Golab meeting room, a facility to explore face-to-face meetings of small working groups, usually 2 to 6 people. The room is flexible and allows the sharing of information in various ways. This meeting room contains several Xerox computers with special communications and meeting software. The workstations are connected by Xerox Ethernet. This allows each station to communicate with any or all of the others. Since we wanted people to really use the Golab meeting room, it had to be both comfortable and easy to meet in, with the computer presence as unobtrusive as possible. To allow people to maintain eye contact, the workstations are set into the modular conference table. We tried to make the Golab meeting room feel like an ordinary conference room so people would feel free to use their usual effective meeting skills. We also provide a blackboard-sized screen projection that we call the live board. Even when used simply as a large display without special software, the live board helps support group work by providing a shared focus. In this respect, it's like a blackboard. But unlike a blackboard, any person's active computer screen may be displayed on the board.
We want to design the Golab room for flexibility, to be able to accommodate many different kinds of meetings. For example, for a meeting in which there is a single focus, we have a large screen in which all the people in the room can focus on that one screen. For some meetings, you want to compare different systems that have different kinds of images. So we have each screen in that room able to connect to the same workstation or to different ones. And we can compare each of the workstations with the big screen or with a workstation that's adjacent. Finally, for group software, we've put in special communication software that allows individuals to see a common area on their screen which they can share.
While extensions of single-user facilities are interesting, most of the Golab project has been devoted to the exploration of software to support group work. The key idea is to provide a shared workspace for a group that appears on each person's workstation. The first time we used Golab, we weren't even sure if it was going to work before, and we had never really used shared workspaces before. We were used to using personal workspaces, and it was terrifically productive to see other people's ideas popping up and being connected to what I was doing as I was doing it. Here we see a shared workspace embedded in private workspaces. To understand a shared group workspace, think of a computerized blackboard, available to you and to everyone else from where you sit. The computerized blackboard makes it easy to rearrange items, to change or delete them, or even to recall something you accidentally erased. Such a system can also remember the entire workspace so it can be reconstituted for the next meeting. One problem with distributed shared workspaces occurs if you try to point your finger at the screen in front of you. No one else can see where you're pointing. The large black arrow appearing here is a telepointer, showing where someone else at another workstation is pointing in the shared workspace. To give you a better idea of how software can support a particular kind of meeting, let's focus for a few minutes on the meeting tool we use the most. We designed a tool called Cognoter to support small groups that are trying to organize some information for a paper or a talk. The way it works is they can put little pieces of information up on the screen. They can shove these things around, play around with it until they get a structure that they can use as an annotated outline that will serve as the basis for their paper or the talk. In the first part of a Cognoter session, the goal is to have people get ideas out of their heads and into the computer system. Everyone in the group has equal and immediate access to the shared workspace. They enter items, brief descriptions of their ideas, as soon as they think of them. Items contributed by others appear on your screen, even as you enter an item of your own. In the first part of Cognoter, we want the tool to stay out of the way as much as possible. We want it to be flexible, and want to be as little delay as possible when people put their ideas down, and that way we expect it'll be much more useful. To expand on the short idea phrases, longer pieces of text can be associated with them. In this multi-user system, everyone can see and manipulate the shared information. They can add or change items simultaneously. To coordinate this parallel activity, visual busy signals warn you when an item is being modified by someone else. When the generation of ideas slows down, the group begins to order the ideas. Links can be drawn between items, and items that are closely related can be grouped together. To specify a preferred ordering, directed links are drawn from one item to another. Items that belong together can be gathered into a group. Many times a prospective group is clustered spatially before the grouped items are removed from the visual workspace, leaving a single group item in their place. A group is represented as an item surrounded by brackets. The internal organization of a group can be displayed in a separate shared workspace. In this setting, it often happens that some of the participants will choose to fine-tune a part of the structure, while the rest of the group does something else. The shared data, seen up to now in graphical form, can also be displayed in outline form. An annotated outline is generated using the ordering links, the spatial relationships, and the grouping of items. This document, designed by the group, will serve as the organizational basis for their presentation. Cognoter is only one tool that allows computers to assist in collaborative work. It helps our group with a task we do often, but there are many other group activities that could be supported by collaborative tools.
We're building a number of different Golab tools, and people outside of this group are beginning to use them. To understand how well these tools work in practice, we've equipped the Golab meeting room with a number of cameras and microphones that allow us to tape these meetings as they happen. Reviewing these tapes should help us to understand how we can improve our tools, make them easier to use, and make them more efficient. To help us analyze the fairly massive amount of information that gets generated in a typical Golab session, we've created what we term the Meeting Analyst Workstation. Meeting Analyst's workstation provides coordinated access to the large amount of audio, video, and computational information that's generated in a typical session.
Anthropologists and psychologists at the Palo Alto Research Center are studying and comparing ordinary meetings using whiteboards with those that take place using Golab. We expect insights from these analyses to help us in the design and refinement of future collaboration technology.
After seeing the Golab, you might ask, is this what meetings should be like? And there's something pretty implausible about the story, that people working in their offices use one kind of tools, but when it's time for a meeting, they gather up their things and go to this special room, a kind of high-technology Star Trek room with computers and gadgets and people somehow working together. We're asking ourselves now, what should the next generation of collaboration technology be like? And there's a key idea behind this, which is seamlessness. And by seamlessness, we mean that group work ought to merge smoothly with individual work, that group tools ought to merge smoothly with individual tools, even that Golab kinds of tools ought to begin to appear in the office. So, for example, on the walls, there ought to be active whiteboards that are like the live board you saw in the Golab. But this technology ought not get in the way. We think of it as being something which should just disappear into the furniture, as it will, so that when people, when they're working together, can focus on shaping their ideas.